Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Kimberlyn Coaching. I'm so glad to have you joining me here today. We are continuing to study about stress and trauma, how to have less stress in the world, how to recover from and flourish after traumatic situations. And you remember that everyone living today qualifies for having experienced a traumatic experience because of the pandemic. When for so many years, I believed that if a situation was not going my way, that it just meant I hadn't obsessed about it enough, thought about it, planned, researched, talked, wheedled, pleaded, begged, explained that I just had not done enough obsessing, because if I had, I would have been able to find a way to make this situation do the way I wanted it to do. As you may guess, that caused a lot of stress in my life because there were many situations that no matter how hard I tried, I could not change the situation. I could not change other people. I was not willing to accept. Today we're going to talk about accepting, but first I want to share my screen with you. Give me just a minute. Okay, hopefully you see that. And so we have been talking about stress reduction. You're probably tired of this little lady's picture. Probably need to change her picture. But the way that we really want to learn how to deal with stress is, first of all, if we get triggered in the moment, we want to learn how to regulate our bodies. And we've done that. We've talked about breathing exercises. If you missed the previous videos, please go to my website, kimberlyncoaching.com. On the Springboard tab, you can watch all of these videos. They're all posted there, and you can catch up and find out what we've been learning about in these situations. So we've talked about how to regulate our bodies in the moment. We've also talked about eliminating, where we can, stressful situations. We've talked about how not all situations not all stress is bad. Not all stress causes us to be distressed. But where we can, we eliminate those situations. And then the very biggest way, the most important way, the most powerful way to be able to handle stress is to learn how to decrease our reaction to stress. Because we find that the stress is not caused so much by the circumstances, but by our reaction to the circumstances. So we spent a lot of weeks on talking about awareness of being, awareness of ourselves, of others. We're doing this through the core disciplines. These are 10 different concepts that will help us be powerful. Like I said, we spent several weeks on awareness. Now we've moved on into acceptance. Today we're going to be an introductory lesson to acceptance, so it's going to be a little shorter, but we're going to just talk about some different ideas of what acceptance is. We're going to give some definitions today, and then I'm going to let you give you some ideas of what we're going to continue to learn about. We're going to flesh out those definitions in the next few weeks. So we've moved on to acceptance now, core discipline number 2. So when we think about acceptance, one of the things that was hard for me, the reason why I just could not accept these things, was because I felt like it meant that I was okay with this, that I was saying this situation, that I was agreeing with it, that I was saying it was good. And I could not see a way that it was anything but bad. What I learned was that acceptance is not. I can accept something even though I do not like it at all, because all I'm accepting is that this is what is right now. Doesn't mean it's going to always be this way. Doesn't mean I'm going to always live with it or accept or tolerate it. But for right now, this minute, this is the truth of what is happening. So here are some definitions. And as we go through these, I would like for you to think about, what in your life are you having trouble accepting? What things are you either in denial or still fighting against them? And hang on to those, and we'll use those as we go along through the next few weeks. And you can look at your own personal situation and say, how can I use these concepts to help me in this situation? Because if you're like me, those situations that you're not accepting are causing you to have a lot of stress in your life, causing you to have a lot of disease, dis-ease, and it eventually causes disease because of those hormones. Remember, we talked about the hormones that our brain tells our body to push out when we're stressed. Those hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline, when we have those in our bodies for a long time, they actually do cause our bodies to be diseased. It causes harm to our bodies, not just making us unhappy, actually causes harm to our bodies. Okay, so here's one of the definitions. Acceptance is a person's assent to the reality of a situation. And we talked about this in awareness, becoming aware of the reality. What is the truth here? Not what I want to believe is the truth, not what I want to be is the truth. Remember, I told you that for so many years, I believed what I wanted to believe about any situation, regardless of how much evidence I had to the contrary. If I wanted to believe it, I just believed it. And I did not come to have peace about things until I started to be willing to accept this is the reality. At that point, then I could start making decisions about what to do about that. So that's one of the definitions is assenting, not agreeing, because it's not saying that we like it, but realizing this is what is the reality. Another definition is recognizing this process or this condition without attempting to change it or protest it. So maybe you accept that this is the reality, but if you're still trying to change it, you're protesting against it, you're constantly nagging about it or talking about it or fighting it, that is not acceptance. We're also going to talk about radical acceptance. This goes even farther than just accepting. If you have any kind of pain, chronic pain in your life, you've probably heard this term, radical acceptance. In fact, if you've done any kind of self-help, if you've done 12-step, if you've done Celebrate Recovery, if you've done CBT or DBT or counseling or therapy, anything like that, you're going to hear them talk about acceptance. And I may have said that at the beginning of this talk already, but if I did, then I guess you just needed to hear it twice. So if we're having suffering, if we're having pain, then the concept here of radical acceptance is that the actual suffering part comes because we're attached to the pain, because we are fighting the pain, we are concentrating on the pain rather than accepting the pain, and then supposedly the pain will go away. I do not have chronic pain, so I cannot tell you if this works or not. But I know it does work for emotional pain. If you have had any experience with this, with chronic physical pain, you can tell me about that and tell me if this is right or wrong. But this is the idea that pain does not necessarily equal suffering. That accepting will cause the pain to diminish, or at least our suffering with the pain will diminish. Then another concept of radical acceptance is the ability to accept situations that are outside of our control. Right? If you are married or have a relationship with an addict, you have been in Al-Anon, you've been told you didn't cause it, you can't control it, you can't cure it, but you could possibly contribute to it. So when we have situations that are totally outside of our control, accepting them without judging them, and that without judging them is often hard too, because we maybe say that it's we accept it, but that it's bad. And this is hard. I'm not telling you that this is easy. And we will discuss this more to help you be able to figure out, how can I do this? Do I want to do this? But how can I make this be something that helps me in my life? So here it is again. We have situations that are outside of our control. We accept them without judging them. And this in turn reduces the suffering that is caused by them. Again, if you have any experiences with this, yay or nay, let me know, because some of this I'm getting from studies that I've done. Some of it is my own experience, but some of it, when it has to do with physical pain, I actually have not experienced that. I'm more into the mental and emotional pain. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that matter. So now here are the things we're going to talk about the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk about what are the signs that you're not accepting. One of the things that we said is denial. One of the things we've said is protesting, finding it. But anyway, we'll talk about the signs you're not in acceptance. What happens when we don't accept? What are some of the consequences when we refuse to be in acceptance? We're going to talk about what acceptance is not. We've already mentioned a few things, that it is not saying it's okay, saying I agree with this, but what are some other things that it is not? And then what is keeping us from accepting? What makes it so hard? We're going to talk about what acceptance is. What does it really look like in our day-to-day life? What are some examples of it? We're going to talk about the three main areas that we need to accept is ourself, others, and our life circumstances. We're going to talk about some tips to help us accept. And we're going to talk about the differences. When is it appropriate to be in acceptance and when is it not appropriate? You do not necessarily need to accept every single situation in your life. So let's talk about when it's appropriate to accept, when it's appropriate not to accept. And that's actually it for today. Today's short. It's just an intro. Like I said, be thinking about what things in your life or circumstances in your life that you're having trouble accepting. If you actually have some situations or examples where you have accepted and it has helped you, please give us tell us your stories in the comments and help us along. Otherwise, think about to yourself what circumstances you're having trouble accepting. Bring those back with you the next few weeks, and then maybe you can use some of these concepts to help you accept that situation. If you would like more help than just the videos, if you would like some one-on-one help, I would love to work with you. I would love to at least talk with you to see if we would be a good fit to work together. In the show notes, there's a link. You can click on that link. You can schedule a free coaching session, discovery call, where we can talk about what coaching could do for you and whether we would fit as a good relationship to have that coaching relationship. So meanwhile, be thinking about acceptance. How can you accept? Where are you struggling? And hopefully this has been helpful, and have a great week, and I will see you next week.